Hello, I'm Gary Maddox, Sheriff of Lamb County, and this is Texas County Voice, a podcast for all 254 counties. Thank you for listening.
Hello and welcome to Texas County Voice. I'm Jody Seaborn with the Texas Association of Counties. And today we're talking about a new initiative from the National Association of Counties called We Are Counties. It's a campaign aimed at helping counties better tell their story and connect with residents and policymakers alike. And joining us is NACo CEO and Executive Director, Matt Chase. Matt, welcome back to Texas County Voice.
Jody, thank you. It's an honor to be back. And thank you to the Texas Association of Counties. Of course, your executive director, Susan Redford, and the TAC team and your board. It's always great to collaborate. And thank you for talking about NACo's new initiative, We Are Counties. We're looking forward to the opportunity to engage and talk about what we're doing.
Well, you launched this campaign during your legislative conference in February, so about a month ago. And what were you seeing that made this feel necessary?
Well, there's a Texas connection here. So Wise County Judge J.D. Clark is president of the National Association of Counties, and he's really passionate about county storytelling and making sure that counties are engaging with our residents about the great work of county government. And NACo has been working on civic education and, of course, our federal policy advocacy for decades. But the world's changing. And as we were preparing for President Clark's NACo Spotlight, we went back and we really were rethinking, where are we as a country? Where are we with public trust? And what is the role of county governments and groups like the Texas Association of Counties and NACo? And it's essential for a healthy representative democracy to have citizen trust and citizen engagement. And then we started to think about what is called the attention economy. When you think about what is the number one economic engine right now in the world, it's our fingertip. Every time we swipe, somebody gets paid. And there's this whole emerging science behind what's called the attention economy, and we can come back to it. But we either control our own narrative as county government, or somebody else will control the narrative on our behalf. And so that's really what sparked our interest in this We Are Counties campaign.
Yeah, you mentioned Judge Clark. He's currently president of the National Association of Counties. And his storytelling initiative, and as you know, we recently started a Texas County Storytellers program. For counties trying to tell their story better, what do you think actually works? How do you make these stories feel real and relatable?
So, Jody, before you get into that, I'm going to step back a second and talk quickly about why it's important before we get to the how.
Okay.
When we look at public trust as a representative democracy, public trust has been declining really since the Vietnam era. It peaked post World War II, where the public's trust in government at all levels was at 77%. 77% of adults trusted federal, state, and local government. And they trusted all sorts of other institutions, churches, the military, their employer. Well, public trust in government is now below 20%. So something is wrong. And we've seen it spike and wane over the years. But when you talk about the economy, elections, the judiciary, law enforcement, housing affordability, folks see a lot of issues, and it has really resulted in a declining trust. To be an effective elected official, you need the public trust. There's a great saying that America thrives when citizens entrust the government with a measure of confidence. Yet, the public still insists that government is worthy of our trust. If we're not communicating and building the information flow and the awareness, Americans by default want their government to prove that they're worthy of that trust. And so when we get to the how, I think the first thing is to understand it's no longer expensive to communicate. That if you have an iPhone or an Android phone with a camera on it, you as a county official, whether you're elected or a career person, can build your own media company. And we obviously have seen that in social media.
So counties can build a website and get their message out. Is there a best practice that you've seen that you might advise counties to follow or to look at?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interesting examples. We had a county executive similar to a county judge who happened to be running for governor of his state and was running against in a primary an incumbent lieutenant governor. And nobody gave this county executive a chance to win. But when he unveiled his county budget, he didn't do it behind a podium. He didn't do it from the county courthouse. He actually did it while riding his bike and did a 30-second preview of his county budget on his bicycle. Now, not everybody's going to do that, but you can do it from your pickup truck. You can do it from your tractor. You can do it other ways. But what he knew is a 30-minute budget presentation was not going to capture the residents' attention. He needed to distill $1 billion budget into 30 seconds in a way that you can share on Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn. And also just being very creative and engaging and making it fun and putting a human face on it. My home county in Virginia is facing some real issues with their budget because our commercial real estate assessments are down 20%. And so 60% of the county's budget comes from property taxes. And they've done really creative ways to show how a dollar is divided up between the schools, the county, and special purpose districts in a way that the average homeowner can really understand. They've used social media, they've used simple infographics. They didn't spend a lot of money. They just really thought, what is going to penetrate the noise? And what we are talking about with the We Are Counties campaign is NACo is essentially building our own media company, our own content company. The beautiful thing about county governments is we serve people and places. We have so many human interest stories, both of the life journeys of our elected officials and just this rich history that we have. And we can really humanize the work because ultimately we're helping people and places. And when we think about how we're going to do it, one, we got to show up. If you're not in the game, if you don't have a Twitter page or an X page, you're not on LinkedIn, you're not where your local residents are, maybe it's on neighborhood listservs or homeownership listservs. If you're not where they're at, you're not present. We have to have simple, trusted data to make us credible. But we all know that stories make us memorable. And so the more we can convert that data and not talk about the size of our county budget or what we're spending, but what are the real human interest stories from those investments? And I think what residents want to see is what are our results? Not what are our outputs, but what are our outcomes? For every tax dollar that they're spending, what are they getting in return? And that's what We Are Counties is about, is enhancing the civic literacy of what is the fundamentals of county governments. What are the roads that we own and the bridges that we own? What's the role of our jails? What's the role of our courthouses and our elections administrators? But then translate it in to what do those services mean for the public on a day-to-day basis?
Well, you mentioned trust and the loss of trust, and I think we could spend an hour easily talking about how that happened and why it exists. But let me ask you, as someone who is in contact with county officials across the country every day, what's a misconception that you hear most often from people outside county government?
One, I think people in general think counties have more money than we do. And the money that counties do have is often predetermined through federal and state mandates. So it's not like a commissioner's court has unlimited discretionary dollars. And I think that is important to understand of what are the mandated services and what are the cost of services. I gave a speech the other day about transportation and why it's really important for counties to be at the table in the next surface transportation bill. And so I was talking to a group of these congressional staffers, and I explained in 1996, a ton of asphalt was about $24 a ton. Today, depending on where you are in the country, a ton of asphalt can be $140 or more. And yet we still have the same sales tax rate or gas tax rate, depending on where you're at, that we did in the early 1990s. So a county commissioner and their road crew is asked to maintain the same number of roads, or in places like Texas, probably an increased number of road miles on a tax base that is really 20 cents on the dollar. And so trying to put into context the challenges that we have, but also celebrating the innovations. And, Jody, going back to why we did this, there was an economist back in 1971, Herbert Simon, that said, a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. And we know there is so much information out there. What scientists at MIT have also proven is that false information, either misinformation or disinformation, travels further and faster than the truth. And so for counties, we need to go on the offense. And we're not going on the offense to manipulate the residents. We're going on offense to make sure that they know what the return on investment is when they invest in their county government. Because if we're not telling our story, others will tell it for us.
What does success look like for We Are Counties for the campaign?
Well, I think what it is we're not trying to tell the NACo story. We're trying to tell the story of counties at the local level. We're trying to help county officials learn the modern art of storytelling so that they can govern more effectively. What we hate to see is a county judge, a commissioner, a treasurer, or sheriff have to waste time on the back end when misinformation or disinformation gets out there. Let me bring it down to like a real world level. On September 23rd through the 25th, we're going to be pleased to host a national energy symposium in Potter County, Texas. And Texas Association of Counties has been a great partner in planning this national energy symposium. What we are seeing with the explosion of data centers across the country is incredible. And what the judges and commissioners are having to deal with fact versus myth, is mind-numbing. Now, some might be conspiracy theory and some might be legitimate concerns. But if you as an elected official don't have existing relationships with your community, if you don't have some infrastructure to communicate and engage with your residents, your fiscal court meetings are going to turn into a zoo. And that's why this We Are Counties is so important. It's to tell the national story of counties, but it's also to arm and empower local county officials with modern tools and how do you engage in effective governance.
Well, I was able to attend NACo's legislative conference in February, and data centers was certainly something people were talking about in the hallways. It was the topic of at least 3 sessions that I'm aware of.
And it's not just the data centers themselves. And I think this is why we're going to Texas, is the power has to come from somewhere, whether it's traditional oil and gas, whether it's nuclear, whether it's going to be solar or wind or geothermal. It's coming from somewhere. And then it's got to be transmitted to where the data centers are, and ultimately where the end users of the data centers are, mainly the phones in our hands. And in a place like Texas, you're going to have challenging conversations because you have limited land use authorities, but you're also going to have demands on water. You're going to have residents upset about noise. And so, again, coming back to the storytelling, for a lot of counties, this is an economic opportunity. So they're not whining about it. It's just a reality that you have to pay for it and deal with it. And so helping the judge and the commissioners and the other folks at the county tell that story is going to be really important.
Well, I appreciate your time, Matt. What's the easiest way for county officials to get involved with We Are Counties and with NACo?
Yeah, well, thank you. I think going to our website, NACo.org, we've got our We Are Counties information there. We're just getting going. We're actually going to be producing a lot of different material. We'll be partnering with the Texas Association of Counties and others. What you see now is just an early glimpse on our civic education materials, but we're going to be filming docuseries and mini documentaries. We're going to be having interactive podcasts, but we're also going to be engaging federal policymakers where, for example, when we develop a documentary, we're not going to just put it online. We're going to have viewing events around the country and engaging federal and state policymakers on what we're doing, as well as the citizens. So encourage people to check out our really early materials, and we welcome your ideas on how we can help tell the local county story.
We'll share some of those links to the stuff you have done already on our show page and look forward to seeing more and look forward to NACo's annual conference in July.
Great. And a shout out to TAC for the great work that you all are doing on your storytelling. And what's really important is that we collaborate. And it's just wonderful to see that we're really telling the county story with pride.
Well, thank you, Matt. Look forward to having you on again. I think this is your third, maybe fourth time on the show. So,
Well, Jody, you make it easy and always appreciate it.
to see how these national conversations are playing out on the ground, we spoke with Texas county officials attending the 2026 NACo Legislative Conference. Here's what they had to say.
Tom Green County Judge Lane Carter.
Judge Carter, we're here at the 2026 NACo Legislative Conference. What federal policy issues currently matter most for Tom Green County?
Well, I know right now, I think the whole nation is facing a question on what are data centers and what do they look like? How are they going to affect us? So it's really good to see these panels that are describing that, we're not just alone out there in West Texas. It's almost every state is facing data centers. We thought we were almost a little bit unique in a sense. So now that we know that other areas are facing the same challenges as us, the questions as us of what do we do for the property? What do we do for water? What do we do for energy? And having everybody here kind of collaborate in a sense to show that, hey, we need to kind of address this locally and statewide, federal-wide, to where we can make sure that we can accomplish what we both need as a data center and as a county. In the state of Texas, we statutorily don't have that ability outside of a 312 agreement if they enter into an abatement with us contractually to put in stipulations of road use agreements, things like that. I think there's some possibilities that we have in the state of Texas to kind of accomplish what we need statewide, relating to the water issues that Senator Charles Perry's working on. He's kind of the head of all things water in the state of Texas in the Senate side. The collaboration that we might be able to have at the local level with him and the rest of the Senate, I could see accomplishing what they want to do for water development statewide to where we can all thrive in it.
Well, it seems certain it's going to be a big topic during next year's session. What opportunities do you see for Texas counties to collaborate at the federal level?
A lot of the opportunities that we have kind of might resort around grant funding. Tom Green County and a lot of counties in Texas rely on some federal grants to accomplish items that we don't have enough funding outside of our caps, our revenue caps. So expanding on those with the federal level might have a collaboration of creating that ability to show our federal officials this is what we're doing locally and this is why we need help on the funding for that. On the flip side of that, there always resorts down to the reporting standards. We want to make sure that we use their funding wisely, but also not be hindered by standards that might create some burdens for us to accomplish what we were wanting to in the first place. So it's a good balance that we need.
Well, thank you, Judge. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
David Blackburn, Bell County Judge. We actually have a lot of issues that are federal in nature. The biggest one probably we have right now is related to water and water planning, water development, and water funding. And we're seeking assistance at the federal level, the state level, to help us get those projects moving on a regional basis. So it's really important to come up here and work those issues.
How important is the relationship between our federal officials and local officials such as yourself?
Again, it's very important, especially when it comes to trying to obtain federal funding. And so the relationships that you can build and engage in with our federal officials and their staff, as well as our elected representatives up here, really either help us or hurt us in one way. So it's good to have these meetings and these conferences, as well as the visits that you have on Capitol Hill.
Well, we're in the interim in Texas between legislative sessions. What are you anticipating next session?
Well, for our Texas legislature, I think there's going to be, if I had to predict right now, I would say water, especially groundwater issues, will be in the forefront of the legislative discussions. Property tax discussions seem to always be in the mix, so I would anticipate they'll be in the mix also. But I also think the legislature is going to build on what they did the last session with regard to water funding, and I think there's the potential for some really significant policy shifts in water management, water practices, and water law for that matter. So as always, it'll be an exciting session.
Schleicher County Treasurer Jennifer Henderson.
Ms. Henderson, you are involved with NACo's technology component, aren't you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, this is my third year to serve as vice chair on the County Technology Advisory Council, and it's really helped me transform both how I view technology in county government and a lot of the operations in my office. So I've learned a lot about cybersecurity. I've met with just IT leaders from across the country, and I've gotten to come and work on legislation like the reauthorization of the state and local government cybersecurity grant, and just learned ways to really strengthen cybersecurity back at home in Schleicher County. We've made a lot of progress in our cybersecurity posture. Gotten to work also locally with our regional security operations center that's based there out of Angelo State University. But it's a fun time to be in the place where government and technology intersect. I would encourage everyone to consider membership in NACo. There are so many opportunities available to you that are just virtual. So even if travel to DC isn't going to work for you in your office, there are just so many learning opportunities that you can do while you're still back at home.
From storytelling and trust to infrastructure, water, and technology, counties are at the center of some of the biggest challenges and opportunities facing our communities. And as we've heard throughout this episode, meeting those challenges starts with telling the county's story clearly, consistently, and in ways people can understand. We'll include links to NACo's We Are Counties campaign and Texas County Storytellers Initiative on our show page on county.org. Thanks for listening to Texas County Voice. We'll see you next time.